Gus G, and you're watching Guitar Gear Guy. Thank you for tuning in.
Hello everyone, how are you? This is yours truly, Triple G, and I'm sure you have guessed by now by the title of this video, this is unlike any other video that I have come to you so far with. Throughout this video, I'll probably end up saying some things that are either incorrect or whatnot, because I have not fact-checked everything that I'm about to say. Just going purely by memory only, so please forgive me if I say something that is out of my butt. I know a bunch of YouTubers have already come out with their videos in tribute. Truthfully, I have not watched any of them solely because I just haven't had any sort of a time. I, however, felt it was important for me to at least come on in here and say a few things about Eddie, largely due to the seismic impact that he had in the little community that we call guitar players. Although it may sound a little bit cliche, to celebrate the impact that he left and the legacy that he left rather than mourn the untimely passing of Eddie. So I feel like I almost probably can't say anything new that other people haven't already said. However, perhaps this video may come to you a little bit different perspective, because I myself, I don't call myself the biggest Eddie Van Halen fanboy. Personally, I actually do prefer, from that generation of guitar heroes anyways, I prefer Randy Rhoads, who's my #1 all-time favorite player. That doesn't take anything away from Eddie. Easily anybody's top 3, top 1, So there isn't any form of a disrespect in terms of Eddie's the footprint that Eddie left behind as he passed away this Tuesday. Again, I don't want to repeat what others have already said, but I love gear, you love gear, and Eddie, in retrospect, if you really look at it, not only he was a phenomenal player, but he had super impact on all the gear stuff that you and I lust after. So in this video, I want to talk to you a little bit about arguably the best guitar player last 4 decades, if not more. A little bit about Eddie. Alright, so if my memory serves correctly, the very first time that I listened to Van Halen was actually the very first album he did with Sammy Hagar after David Lee Roth either left or got kicked out. I actually don't remember. So you may ask, wow, that's actually well into their whole career as a band, why so late? So the reason being is this: one, by the time the very first Van Halen album came out, I was like either 6 or 7 years old, and I was in Korea where rock and metal basically not suited to survive way back then, even to today. Definitely far away from being mainstream. You think the rock and metal scene is not mainstream here in America? Guess what? It's even worse out there in Korea, and especially back then with all the censorship and everything. So I really didn't have a chance to get to Van Halen. So that album, is it Unlawful Carnal Knowledge, or is it OU812, or maybe that's just a song? I actually don't, again, I'm not super familiar with the discography. Anyhow, so that's the very first time that I had chance to listen to Van Halen. And then as the years went by, especially after I moved to America, I actually backtracked the catalog and got to know Eddie's impact, Eddie's playing, and his godlike status as I've grown older. Now, as far as that album is concerned, the song Right Now, I remember it being a huge hit among other things to me, and especially I think it was shortly after I came to America where the song Right Now was played. Wasn't it used for the Pepsi commercial where they were playing the song, and the little text advertisement would go by like, right now so and so is enjoying. So a lot of different scenarios, and I remember this commercial, Pepsi commercial, that played off of the song and the lyric, and that still remains with me to this day. And then also that album, again, correct me if I'm wrong, was the one where he started to actually take some flack from the fan base and maybe even the critics. I actually don't know, because again, I wasn't paying really attention. I couldn't pay attention, you know, whatever it may be. Where he was catching some flack because he was introducing a lot of synthesizer into the songs, whereas the fans were clamoring for more guitar, more guitar, more guitar naturally. But again, you know, in retrospect, you really couldn't fault him, because the band and himself also needed to somewhat reinvent themselves, right? So I don't know if that's necessarily something negative. So often you hear the phrase, think outside the box, right? Eddie Van Halen really embodied that statement, thinking outside of the box. He was pushing all kinds of boundaries, never settling for anything that's considered as norm or standard. So in a lot of areas, he was really a trailblazing individual in a lot of different aspects. So set aside, you know, his epic playing skills, songwriting skills, never settling for anything status quo. He really set different standards in terms of how the instrument guitar was viewed as well as played. So like in year 2020, I think about Eddie Van Halen always striving for something better, something different. Reminds me a lot of Elon Musk. Again, you know, I'm not the hugest fan of Elon Musk, but that's not to say I don't recognize all the innovative things that he's done, and I look at Eddie the very same way. Basically, someone who comes out of nowhere and redefines everything that we know as is, and doing things differently instead of complying. As far as his playing was concerned, I mean, gosh, what more can be said about that, right? I mean, doing the impossible basically was expected out of him after the monumental first album. The whole acrobatic playing style when he debuted, was it like 78 or something, was something so breathtakingly new to everyone. It really redefined rock guitar playing for not only generations to come after, but probably for eternity to come, because it was that groundbreaking in terms of how the instrument was played. I don't know how else to say how Eddie reinvented the whole rock guitar playing, just leaving such profound impact for, you know, all guitar players yesterday, today, and all the tomorrows to come. Things that we consider as a normal tricks out of a bag today, like the hammer-ons, dive bombs, harmonics, and tapping. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And that's all thanks to Eddie. And another thing, that coveted brown sound, yes, you can thank Eddie for that too. And I could be mistaken here, but from the world of rock and metal, I believe he was the very first one that actually successfully crossed over to genre of pop music, when he made a brief cameo appearance and laid down that epic and blistering guitar solo in Michael Jackson's Beat It, which not only was something so new back then, but for years later on, it also paved the way for somebody like Slash to do the very same thing in another Michaels song. So what am I trying to say with all that? As mentioned earlier in the video, I probably am not the biggest Eddie Van Halen fanboy. However, if you are a rock and metal music lover, basically whoever your guitar hero is, chances are he or she is influenced heavily by none other than Eddie Van Halen. So, you know, the whole 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon or whatever, how everybody's related to him, something. So you look at today's who's who of guitar playing, the lineage all gonna eventually lead to Eddie Van Halen, and that's why you may not have to be the biggest fan of Eddie Van Halen, but again, Eddie comes into your life as a big, huge influence nonetheless. So as far as all the gear stuff is concerned, come on, where do I even start? Obviously, he's going to be most recognized by the red, white, and black stripe Frankenstrat, one that looks like this. And with that, he probably introduced the concept of hot rod and partscaster, dare I say. I don't know if stuff like that was happening before then. If it wasn't happening before then, it was not to the, you know, level of impact his Frankenstrat did to the entire industry like he had done. The whole gear thing obviously didn't end there, you know, so with that, you know, when he got the blank body from Charvel's shop out in San Dimas, so Charvel, Jackson were tied to Van Halen that way. You had the MXR Phaser 90, which is the holy grail, thanks to Eddie. After that, what? Kramer, Music Man, PV, which all eventually led down to the road of him having his own brand EVH closely tied to Fender, where Fender did the manufacturing, giving him his own brand name. So, I mean, it just goes on and on. And back in the 80s, he single-handedly put Kramer as #1 guitar company in the US. Similarly, what Lance Armstrong did to the brand Trek out of Waterloo, Wisconsin, Michigan. Trek was a no-name bike brand until Lance Armstrong made a household name in the same light as what Michael Jordan did to Nike. I can't think of, so if you're thinking about back in the 80s, you really can't think Kramer without Eddie, Eddie without Kramer. But all the gear stuff didn't end there. All the things that I have mentioned so far, and probably a bunch of things that I have forgot to mention as well, basically all led to copies, clones, other equipment that pay homage to his, you know, stuff. So it spawned this whole gear industry sub-segment where everybody tried to produce something that Eddie was using or Eddie would have used, or some derivative copy of what Eddie was using. I mean, the whole 5150, which gave birth to 6505. I mean, it just spawned this entire catalog of equipment that we all love and use today. Everything all relates back to Eddie in some shape or form. So as I said earlier, my personal favorite player is probably Randy Rhoads, and one thing that really saddens me even to today is how we were only left with maybe 2 or 3 albums by Randy. Had a couple albums with Ozzy, with Quiet Riot, and some like bootleg stuff here and there, but basically we were not gifted with his brilliance at unfortunate time of his death. Now, Eddie passing away at still a very young age of 65, it is sad, it is unfortunate, it is heartbreaking. However, at the same time, we were all left with plenty of his work. the body of work that he left with us is enough and plentiful enough where, again, generations to come can really enjoy, dissect, study, and just, you know, as part of his legacy. You know, those time capsules that we bury in the middle of somewhere for aliens to discover later, saying, hey, Earth is this kind of thing. Eddie Van Halen stuff should obviously be in those time capsules, as in, this is the guy that revolutionized the whole thing called guitar playing, and that should be, he should be remembered that way as well. So in conclusion, you know, we all know he has been suffering towards the later part of his life. I'm hoping that his ending came without too much of suffering. For a man who has left a gigantic historical mark in all things music, all things rock, all things guitar, and like I said again, like I said before, huge impact, profound seismic impact that he left for next generations to come, arguably next thousands of years to come. We have lost a giant. We have lost somebody that really changed the game, and those guys don't come very often. So we all owe a lot to Eddie Van Halen. And again, you know, I'm probably saying a lot of things other people have said, so I'll try to end this video here. And if you're stuck around this long, thank you. I appreciate your time watching. So that'll I'll cap this video with that. I hope his soul may rest in power chords. A little cheesy, but wanted to make the word out of P. So I hope his soul rests in power chords up in heavens. And I've been Triple G. You've been awesome. Thank you for your time. Until next time, you guys take care. Be good humans. Triple G out.